I'm Maria Taylor, and you're watching Chopping It Up with Buck.
All right, I got a special guest, Maria Taylor on Chopping It Up with Buck. Maria and I go way back to when she was at the SEC network. I was at ESPN. We always just, every time we talk, Maria, it was something about you and our conversations. They would always be cool. And I kept telling you, I said, you're on a rocket ship. Just let me hold on just a little bit. But the one thing I always loved, it was a humbleness, but also you knew where you were going and you were destined to get there, and you weren't. That's the thing I always liked about you. So we have Maria Taylor extraordinaire. She's on College Game Day. She's on NBA Countdown. She's a Georgia Bulldog. All of you know her and love her. My buddy Maria Taylor, thanks for coming on this edition of Chopping It Up with Buck.
Sure, it's great to be here, Buck. And honestly, like, those conversations with you, they gave me life. Like, there's so many people along the way and friendly faces that you remember that are encouraging and like building you up. And I would definitely say that you were one of those individuals, because Charlotte was my first full-time job in sports broadcasting, SEC network. That was it, So you were seeing me in the very beginning of it all in 2014.
Yeah, but you know what was cool about it? You always seemed like you were there. You knew you would belong there. So that's the one thing that when we talked about getting together, what made you know that you wanted to do this? And how did you just kind of, when you got on the scene, it was like you had been there. You were a veteran and you knew what to expect and what to do.
Sure. I think part of it, I didn't really figure it out until, say, my junior year of college. And we used to have people come and we would have 2 games on ESPN or something like that. And you would meet the analysts and they would talk to you. And literally in my mind, Buck, the biggest I could do was being on the national championship for volleyball and then being on like the Sweet 16 of women's basketball. Like, that was my end goal. That was my game plan. And I attacked everything that I did kind of like an athlete. You know how it is. Like, you just got this super competitive nature. And even when you're nervous, you pretend like you're not. And even when you're not confident, you pretend like you are. You're supposed to be there. So I kind of did that same thing. Like, you're a little bit of a freshman on the scene, but I remember being a freshman at Georgia, and that's what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was kind of perpetrating. So you pretend like you belong until you really do, is what I feel like I did from day one. And a lot of that, again, is that athletic background that, you know so much about, and you've taken into broadcasting too.
Yeah, the one thing before we started, I had to say I have a special place for Suzette. That's your name.
Yep.
And my aunt's name is Suzette. You said your mom's name is Suzette. And I know you're close to your mom and your dad. How much of an influence on the role that they play and where you are and what you do, and how much do you take them with you?
Sure. Technically, I'm Suzette Jr., so I'm like baby. Everyone else in Georgia is like, Suzette is mom. Like, that's it. But no, my dad was in the FBI for 27 years. My mom was a chief financial officer for a company here in Atlanta. So they were both bosses in their own right, So the expectation and the bar was set very high for me from a very young age. And, you just know it was never accepted less than your best. At least you're trying, or you're attacking it, and we don't quit anything, and your parents have done so much and poured so much into you. All I want to do is go and make them proud of me. And so that's a big part of it, honestly. When I did say that I wanted to get into broadcasting, I will say they were like, are you sure you don't want to do business or something, like accounting or just anything that's normal? But they've been supportive every single year. My parents come to the first football game of every year, and they're at the last football game of every year. They come to the first basketball game that I do every year. And anytime that I need them if I start getting sick on the road or something, my mom is like, all right, I'll fly out and just kind of be with you for that weekend or something like that. So they are my stronghold. They lift me up. They encourage me. I talk to them after, the first NBA countdown that I did when I'm like nervous that I do okay.
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess the one thing too about that, we fail in this business. I think we talk about the successes, but what has been the roadblocks or the failures or the areas of development for you in this industry? Because we always talk about all the great things and we see that, but I don't think people see the times when we flub a line or when we miss something. How have you handled that? And how have your parents and other people help you with that?
That is such a good question, Buck. And I wish more people shared their failures more than they do their successes, because we all hit those roadblocks, and it's kind of how you bounce back from it and how you deal with it. One of my biggest failures, I think, was the first time I worked the Rose Bowl. So it was actually when I was still with SEC Network. So I'm working with Britt Musburger and Jesse Palmer, and we're doing an ABC Rose Bowl. And it's like my introduction to college football on a national scene, like far beyond, even the regional reaches of SEC Network. And they come down to the sideline for me, and I'm interviewing Christian McCaffrey. And remember, he didn't win the Heisman that year, but he went off and set a Rose Bowl record for rushing and had this great game. And instead of asking him about his production or his productivity, I made up a word and said productician. So I get back in, you get back in the car, you're riding back to the hotel, and, Twitter's going off on you. It's like, who is this girl? And how did they put her here? And why can't she needs like a dictionary or something like that. And I just remember the first thing I tweeted after that was like, I gave a description of productician and then said the example was Christian McCaffrey in the Rose Bowl. And then I like cried for the next 3 days. Like, they're never going to give me a chance again. Like, the one time that I'm on a major broadcast or a big time game, I can't even handle that pressure. And then I remember my mom, because my mom was there at the Rose Bowl with me. She was like, girl, no one is going to remember this tomorrow. No one cares about you that much. Like, it's just a game. I need you to move on and keep it, keep pressing, and you'll be fine. And if they don't want you back, then that's fine too, And so I think it's like that constant reality kick of like, you know what? You're not a surgeon. You're not solving the world's mysteries. You're not an essential worker in any way, shape, or form. So if you flub a line or you mess up, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's whether or not you're going to come back and be on air in the next week. And I was, we were on SEC Network doing halftime raps for women's basketball the next week. So it was like, you have to move on from that mistake and not, internalize it and think that one mistake defines your entire career, everything that you've built up. So, but that was a tough one for me. I really felt like maybe I can't handle this job, or I can't hack it if I can't handle the Rose Bowl.
And the interesting thing with that, Maria, think about all the things you did well then. But as an athlete, I can remember watching film and wanting to leave the film room because of a play that I missed, as opposed to all the plays that you did well. And that's kind of similar in this industry. We don't get those chances to take it back, or everybody sees it instead of just in the film room, which is interesting.
Exactly. And I used to hate film, actually, when I was an athlete. I was like, I don't want to watch myself back. I don't want to hear my voice. I didn't want to see me on the court. I was like, just tell me what I did wrong. Yeah. Let's just redo. If my steps are wrong, my footwork's wrong, just tell me. Let's work on it in practice, but I don't want to see it. So that's kind of how I work.
So this broadcasting thing, I was going to ask you that link between you were a college volleyball player and a basketball player. So you played high level sports in college. How did that help you overcome, that situation with Air and the Rose Bowl, which was just a small blip in the road, but everything else, how does it help you every day? Because I know athletics has helped me tremendously in my life.
I think as an athlete, we're taught, whether we know it or not, that we have to fail fast. So if you go down and miss a layup or you missed a shot, it's like you got to immediately go and play defense. You have to, if I get blocked when I'm playing volleyball, it's like, well, the next point you might have to serve or something like that. Like, you have to be prepared. So I think that we are geared towards knowing that we're going to do something wrong. And it doesn't matter how hard you practice, like something's going to go wrong, but the game doesn't end with that one wrong play. It's about how much your endurance you have over the course of the game, how much energy and effort that you put in over the course of the game. And so that's something that I think means a lot. And I think, too, we have a little bit of a tougher skin. You kind of grow up hearing what you're doing wrong, because that's what coaching is. You're constantly getting coached and told how you can be better. And so we are always looking for, how can I be better? And that might cause us to be a little bit of a perfectionist, but it also causes us to be very good at our job, or at least very diligent. Like, we're not going to leave a rock unturned because we want to be great at everything. So that's something that I think applies to athletes when they leave their field or their court or, their place of competition.
You bring up something that's really interesting, not only an athlete, but being a Black person in America. And I love what I heard from you a couple of weeks ago when you talked about Drew Brees, but it wasn't really Drew Brees I was paying attention to. It was your voice. When did you find that voice? How did that come out? What was it that gave you that voice to say those words that were so powerful, that had everybody on that set that talks a whole lot quiet and listen to?
Yeah. Thanks. I really appreciate that. It's interesting because we were doing NBA Countdown Stay Home editions. So it's myself, Jalen Rose, Paul Pierce, and Jay Williams. And Jalen had said, I think it was that same week, so I went on Friday, but that same week he said, I think my community needs me more than I need my job, more than I need to be comfortable, more than I need the security. And so I'm just going to have to speak my truth from now on. Amina Hussein, she's a coordinating producer on the NBA, a Black woman. And when, First Take called, they called her and asked if I was interested in being on. And my initial reaction was like, well, no, because no one's going to like what I have to say. Like, I know what I'm going to end up probably saying, or I know at least how I feel. And she told me, she was like, as long as you speak from the heart, there is nothing that you're going to say that you will feel bad about. Only good things will come from you speaking your truth. And I will always, take that to heart. So I felt like I had been given a lot of encouragement from people that I trust and look up to and value. And so when I went on, that's exactly what I did. I spoke from the heart and just kind of spoke the truth that I was feeling in that moment. And it's so interesting because when I went off, I called my mom, same thing I did with everything else. And I was like, I don't even know what I said. Like, what did I say? And she was like, I don't know, girl, but it sounded good. So I didn't plan it. It wasn't something that, it just kind of came to me in the moment. I knew how I felt about it. And I knew that now is not a time to be silent. Now is a time to stand up for those who don't necessarily have a voice. And I've been given a platform for a reason in this moment during this time period. And I've got to do right by it. It's almost like we worked so hard, me and you were in Charlotte at SEC Network in 2014 so that I can be in this moment in 2020. And how am I going to use that, or how am I going to be affecting others and change? That's how I keep questioning myself right now.
Another thing I thought was interesting, Grayson Doctor, the daughter of the Payne Middleton doctor, it struck me because a few weeks ago, and I have to hold back tears a little bit on this, I'll be honest with you. I go to Charleston, and whenever I go to Charleston, I pass by Mother Emanuel. I go in the morning when there's no one there, and I can just go to the church and pay my respects to those folks. I've never been in the chapel itself or in the sanctuary, but I just know the violent, horrific things that happen, but it's still a place that is a sanctuary in Charleston. So I go visit a couple of weeks ago, and then I read the article about you and taking on the mentor and almost the big sister, auntie role for this young lady. Tell us about that relationship and how that has played a role in how you walk and your voice and all of those things as well.
It's so interesting you bring that up, because I was literally I was in New York to do the NBA schedule release show, and Grayson texted me while I was there and said, hey, can you come and help me out moving in Syracuse? So, got a rental car and drove up and helped her move out of her apartment in Syracuse because she's graduated, she's got her master's degree now. Yeah. And, it's a relationship that I value a lot because Grayson went through something horrific. Like, no child should have to experience the loss of their mother, and they most certainly shouldn't have to experience it as, a murder, as something that is a hate crime, as something that should never happen in a place of worship. And all of those things happened to her. And she has younger sisters that she's still trying to care for. She has younger sisters that she's still trying to be a role model for. And so when I found out about Grayson, originally she was just going to be a student, a part of our mentorship program. And then right before it was time for us to have our interview, we find out that she loses her mom in the Charleston 9 shooting. And that's like the summer before the plan was to start the program. And she never skipped a beat. I went down for the funeral. You couldn't even get into Mother Emanuel. We went to the repast, went to the burial service, and was just there, just letting her know that I was there. But since then, that relationship has grown so much into, like you said, like an auntie role almost. We're joking and we're having fun, and I'm needling her because she called me. I'm like, girl, who called someone to move 2 days before they move? But it was great to be there because I was also there to move her in. So it was interesting to be a year later and see what she accumulated, and she pulled her goals off the wall. She had written some goals up for her, and like everything that she wanted to accomplish that year, she had gone through and accomplished. And whether that was just being true to herself or making new friends, she wanted to start a podcast, and she did that. She was on, the NPR local station and doing updates. And I'm just so proud of her. Like, it's something that I think I needed. Like, I didn't know how much I needed her or how much we needed each other. And that's one of those just like God things that put us in the same place at the same, had me in Charlotte, had her going to Johnson C. Smith, which is right down the street, had us being able to be in contact with each other, had her wanting to go to Syracuse of all places when I spent part of my life in New York. And we were able to, she came with me to a Syracuse basketball game. That's how we got to meet her teachers when she had her application in. She was able to come shadow me at a Syracuse football game because we were there the next season. It's just like everything kept aligning, and it's been great to have her. And I'm just so proud of, our relationship, but really just of her and the person that she is.
I always wonder, you said God put you in that place, but why? Why do you, I mean, when you think about it, when you are doing that and think about the folks that have mentored you, like the Robin Roberts of the world, the other young ladies and African-American women that had to break barriers, why you? I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why you?
Sometimes I think, I don't know. I feel like I was so blessed from a young age. You know, I have this 2-parent home that we talked about. You know, they taught me to give back to others and to, you know, be caring and be empathetic. And so all of the things that were poured into me, I think were there for a reason. And so it's for me to meet the Graysons of the world and share what I've learned. And then it's for her to teach me something else that I'm going to take on to the next mentoring relationship or whatever the case may be, or the next story that we're able to share and tell together. But honestly, I don't really know. I just think, you know, God puts people in our lives for certain reasons. I think we're on this earth for certain reasons. I'm very big on purpose and whether or not you're living in it. And so to me, my purpose are these individual interactions. Like, it is the people that you can affect on a daily basis. It's the relationships you're given and blessed with and that you work through, because it definitely can't be like working the national championship. Like, that can't be my purpose. You know what I mean? It's gotta be people like Grayson, you know?
Yeah. Well, good. We're going to take a short break on Chopping It Up with Buck. We'll be right back. I want to talk more about purpose because I really like that. We'll be right back.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love. Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available. Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.
All right, we're back at Chopping It Up with Buck. Got Maria Taylor. Maria, you talked about purpose. Tell me a little bit more about that. I'm gonna tell you before you even go. I saw your interview with Robin Roberts. Outstanding. I've always loved Robin Roberts. Right, my first game in the league, I'm catching passes everywhere. I catch a one-hand pass. Go on with your bad self. So every time I see her, and whenever I run into her, I want to tell her I love it because that's the one video that I have of her calling my action. But you talk about purpose, and I like what you guys were talking about in that interview, but mention more about that and tell us a little bit more about what you mean by purpose.
Yeah, I think the first time I really started thinking about purpose was maybe the year after I graduated, say 2010 from college. And the chaplain at Georgia gave me a book called The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And, you know, it's workshop-y, so you have to work through it. You have to write down your ideas. It makes you think. It makes you question why you're doing certain things. And I think purpose is it's the thing that's driving you, or it's your why. So a lot of people are trying to figure out what to do, but I think you have to start from why you're doing it, why you want to be there. And so for me, I think I would like to be a Black female in sports media because I want to represent the young woman that I was sitting at home, only being able to see Robin Roberts and Pam Oliver on TV. You know, I want to be the one that is pushing for more minority talent to be on air and behind the camera. Like, that's my why. But I understand that the only way I can do that is to continue to be good on TV, or continue to work different sports, or meet more people, build out my network so that way I can continue to have a positive impact. And I think we all have a purpose in some way, shape, or form, and that might be the way that you raise your kids and put them out into the world. And I don't have kids, so I'm always like searching for my purpose and my why in my work because I work a ton. But I do think that's a really big part of it, and that's something that's important, because otherwise you can get really caught up, especially in our job, and ego and what about me, like me, focusing on what is your next job and what is your next promotion and how much are you getting paid, instead of being like, okay, when I get there, what do I affect? What change happened? How did I impact that role? Or how did I impact the players and coaches that I interviewed? How were those relationships? And so that's how I try to attack things as much as possible. It still gets hard because, again, sometimes you're just worried about what's happening to you. Like, yeah, I want to be on game day. So it's like, that's the show that I want to be on. But then it's like, when you're there, are you bringing a kid to the game day set? Are you allowing someone who wants to be a director a chance to sit next to the director when they're at game day? And those are all things that I've done and will continue to do always, because that's why I'm there.
Yeah. You talked about that too, being in those initial meetings when you were younger, not speaking up, feeling like you couldn't say anything, but then you started introducing yourself, making sure that they looked you in the eye and they felt your presence. I think that's important. A lot of people say, well, I don't know if I should speak up, but you were doing it and you started doing that after you kind of got in the industry. That's part of the purpose that you talk about?
Yeah, and it's like, why am I here? And you're there because, for me, it was like, I'm the only Black girl here, so that's scary, and I don't want to say something off kilter. Do they really want to hear from me? Does that matter? Is that a good question? Is the answer I'm seeking even worth answering? And no, it's like, why are you here? You're here because your voice is different. You have a different experience, and that voice matters. It's valuable, and people need to hear it. And you need to share what you're thinking with others, because that's why you're here. And I do think it took time. Like, it takes a level of maturity too, to realize, okay, what about my question is valuable? What am I trying to get at? How do I phrase it? How do I do it with confidence? Every time I enter into a room, I do stand up and shake the coach's hand and make sure that I'm seen and heard. Because it was originally, when you're going in and coaches don't know you and you don't know them, they're like going to say hey to everyone that they know.
Yeah,
and
they're going to gravitate over there.
They are. They're going to go all the way around the table. Hey, oh yeah, good to see you again. Blah, 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 blah. And then they get to you, they sit down. So.
Well, the coolest thing though is you got Nick Saban on IG Live. I'm like, hey, how did you do that? Come on, he barely does email.
Me and Saban are like this now. we played basketball. We did a little commercial, and he beat me in horse. Like, we can't go wrong at this point. We've been together. I've been interviewing him since 2014 too. Exactly. Really, CSS days, Comcast Sports South, when we've been having.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, I mean, so tell us about that. Now that you're on NBA Countdown, College Game Day, what's the coolest part about one or both of those, franchises? Because they're great. I mean, everybody looks to NBA Countdown to see the inside with what's Jalen going to say, all those guys. And then Countdown, College Game Day, that's the first thing Saturday morning. We're looking for it. We're like, okay, when are they coming on? And then you and David Pollack, who I work with as well, how do you rein David in is what I always want to know. One of your Georgia Bulldogs, he knows it.
Right.
You got to bring them back in. But what's the coolest part about working on either one of those or both of those?
NBA Countdown, and this was my first season working it, but I always describe it as like, I am at a barbecue with my uncles, and Jay Will is like my brother. You know what I mean? Like, I literally called Paul Pierce Uncle Pete. And so, and like, that's how I introduced him on the show. Everybody's uncle. The culture of the NBA is just it's dynamic, it's young, it's very Black, obviously, because the leaders of it are LeBron and Damian Lillard and James Harden and Russell Westbrook, and they're these dynamic players and personalities that it's been great to get to know. And they're obviously at the front. They are the head of social change, and they don't back down for anything. And they are the league to watch. And I think that they are the league that's going to continue to be leaders in that way. So I love my time on Countdown. It's very like a good mixture of people. Like I said, my coordinating producer is a Black woman. I just feel like at home. So it's like going to a barbecue every Friday.
Yeah, like a family reunion.
We're just at a barbecue. Family reunion. We're going to kick it. We're going to talk about basketball. And we're going to get you to halftime. Like that. Countdown. And then obviously college football is something that has become a home for me, a really home base. When I started working in college football was, as soon as I graduated, first I was working at Georgia, but then by 2010, I was doing a full CSS college or Comcast Sports South football package. And so that put me right in the middle of that space. And now it's at a point where it doesn't matter what campus I go to, I feel at home. All of these coaches, they circulate through all the same colleges and universities. You get to know all of the stories. you're with the same players for 4 years. I get to watch them go from freshman dynamic players to learning like how much work and energy and effort to put into now they are a junior or senior captain leader. And like, I'm proud of them. And I know their moms and I know their dads and we've had conversations and I know who they're mentoring. And so probably what I love about college football is just growing with the players and just playing a small role in documenting their lives, you know, the same way that you just said, I will always remember Robin Roberts, like doing a play-by-play of my, you know, play or whatever. I hope that they remember a story that I told about them on the sidelines or an interview that we did after a game or a conversation that we had after practice. Those things are really valuable to me. And that's what I love about, you know, you can be very hands-on in college football. It's a real strong community.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Maria, because I've been talking a lot about the mental health this year, because as much as we talk about let's hurry up and get the games to come back, it still bothers me a little bit that you have kids that have asthma, you have guys that have diabetes, they have underlying heart, you know, conditions or whatever they have. And most of them African American that are playing the game, but they're going to be afraid to maybe say, I don't know if I want to play. And that's the part from a mental health perspective that colleges are doing a better job. But how do you view that? Because I struggle with it. I want to see the game, and I'm not wishing that it doesn't happen. I just know I don't want to see any of the young men that I watch and love to see and call anything to happen to them where they're not healthy at the end of this season.
And that's a great question. Maybe there should be risk assessments that happen because, you know, a running back's health might not be as in question as much as an offensive or defensive lineman's health because, you know, their body fat ratio is going to be different. Their bodies are built differently. And these are questions that absolutely need answers. Like you said, underlying illnesses. Maybe there's a diabetes involved in a kid or asthma, chronic bronchitis. Like you don't know what a kid is struggling with outside of just staying healthy for their sport until we get into a situation where that actually matters. And I think that that's something that should absolutely be assessed and that nothing should be taken away from them or used against them if they have to deal with any of that. I do think I've seen colleges and universities do a better job with mental health. So I'm on the University of Georgia's athletic medical review board, and they've been very heavy in trying to make sure that not only do we have a sports medicine division, but we have a sports psychology division. And you can work with a psychiatrist, you can work with a psychologist. There's a social worker also associated with you. So, you know, you don't even have to go outside of the athletic association to make sure that your mental health is in check as well. And that they're actually doing assessments when you walk in. They're doing regular assessments to find out where you are right now as a freshman. Like, let's try to track and see how you're feeling as you progress through Georgia and figure out, okay, so what are we doing well? What are we not doing well? Are we making sure that we're maintaining mental health? Are we improving mental health? How are we working on that? And I think I saw Texas has a really good program. So there's certain schools that are really leading the way. And I do think that a lot of other universities are going to follow suit because we are seeing mental health play a bigger and bigger role in student athlete overall well-being, as it should.
Yeah. And I know at University of North Carolina, Dwight Hollier, who I know well, is there. Colorado has seemed to do it. I think all of the programs have that, which I think is good. But now the other side of it, I am amazed at these young men now finding their voice, and young women as well. But some of these young, especially we've seen it a lot in college football here lately, of guys speaking out and showing, hey, look, if this doesn't happen or this flag that we fly in this state, I want it down. They are really starting to be powerful and make some change happen much more quicker than I'm accustomed to seeing. What about you?
I've loved every second of it. I mean, when Chuba Hubbard comes down and is like, I will not play. And he is a Heisman Trophy finalist in the making for, next season. And it is definitive and it is direct and it is not wavering. I think it's extraordinary that they have finally recognized that power because I've always known that they've had it. It's whether or not they want to galvanize it and use it. I mean, we saw it a little bit at Missouri. Remember when the players got together and were just like, so we're just not going to play on Saturday. And what happened? You saw someone get fired, you saw someone get held accountable, and you saw them still play that game because everyone listened to the football players and that football team. And so there is a very strong power, and I think we're seeing a shift in that power from the institution to the player. And I'm okay with that because now is the time that you can't sit back and question. Now is the time that not to take small steps. We need to be moving forward by leaps and bounds. And I think that the players are probably the best individuals to hold everyone accountable because they have to be on those campuses. And if they don't feel comfortable with the statue, if they don't feel comfortable with the theme song or a fight song, and if they don't feel comfortable with the flag that's flying above them, fix it, or they don't have to be there. Like that is a fair request by everyone.
It's kind of cool because you talk about finding your why at 18, 19, 20 something years old, you have that, and then being intentional and really saying, look, this is the reason why when I see George Floyd, that looks like me, or when I see Breonna Taylor, that looks like my sister or my aunt. When I see, Ahmaud Arbery, those are the things that just, I think, strike people and say, no, we don't want. And you also not just see Black people, but you see people around the world saying, hey, what are we doing? What are we doing when you have your knee on the neck of a young man for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? What are we doing?
And what is the culture that's been created that allows something like that to happen? Yeah. Because that individual was raised up in a culture that made him feel, that police officer that made him feel that was okay. Yeah. And that's also called America. So how do we fix that? That shouldn't happen.
Yeah. Maria, one question too, and I think we talk so much about how we feel as men, as Black men, but from a Black woman's perspective, how is it for you? Because we always kind of focus on all of those things, but Breonna Taylor is in there. I mean, you got a lot of names of people. And then from your perspective, what do you see for your young nephews or guys that you have mentored that are younger than you that are coming up and you're just trying to help them get home safely? What does that look like from your perspective?
It looks like having a player that played at a Power 5 school and, very good. And he came to our retreat, and day one, he was a little quiet, but he became, I swear, one of our greatest leaders. And still I talk to him, every month probably about what he's interested in doing and where he's going. And by the end of the retreat, you could tell that something was wrong with him. Like, he was very sad. He didn't want to go back to campus. And he told us, I was like, what happened? Like, you were our guy. Like, you answered questions and you were leaning in. And he said, I just don't want to go back somewhere where no one cares about me. And that is a reality that some of our players are living in. They feel as though they are a product. They feel as though they're not cared for. They feel as though, their struggle has not in any way been identified by the leaders that are around them. And so I think for the first time, they have an opportunity to say, well, no, that's not right. And I would like to hold you accountable. And I would like to help you understand where I'm coming from, or understand what it's like for me to just go to the store in these small towns, these small Southern or, Midwestern towns that are not used to a big Black man walking in. You know what I mean? Like, that is not comfortable for me. And let's have a conversation about it. But I've seen those conversations firsthand. I've seen a basketball player who is trying to transfer and, being held back by one team and wants to go here and can't go there, and grew up in a situation where, his schooling in his county was the lowest, bottom 5 in America. And he's just trying to make a way. And he'll stand up at the end of the retreat and say, the best thing that's happened is I've been surrounded by well-to-do Black men. I haven't had that opportunity. And this is after he's played college, basketball. Yeah. He's been around people, but he hasn't been put in front of strong Black male figures. And that's a problem because, now that goes back to representation in coaching and athletic associations, where he can identify and see someone and look up to someone that looks like him. And so there's so many things that are like striking and missing. And then, I come in direct contact with that all the time. I think as a Black woman, sometimes I think that our struggle is invisible. We tend to lean towards, if we see Black men as the ones that are lost. And then, like you said, Breonna Taylor, I feel like we kind of gloss over her sometimes. We miss that. That wasn't the cause of the outrage, her sleeping in bed and being murdered. That wasn't the cause of it. It was video of George Floyd. And unfortunately, it takes video in general. So it's just interesting to see all of those things happen. I think as a Black person in America, we've just gotten very used to it. Like, at this point, I'm like, and it'll probably happen.
You put your armor on and you go out and you take it.
And you fight and you try not to, shoot your own bullets. Like, you're trying to just be happy and allow people the benefit of the doubt until they prove they're racist, And that's what we have to do. And that is something that is forced upon us and that we constantly deal with. And I think for the first time, our white peers and friends and coworkers and hopefully allies are learning what it's like to just step out with your Black armor on, trying to, live in a world and an America that was not built for you.
Cool. Well, we're going to take a short break. Thanks, Bria. I really appreciate that. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Chopping It Up with Buck.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love.
Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available.
Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
How you guys doing? It's Artavis Scott here. The reason why I like Thin Energy is because I need to be at my peak performance no matter what I do. Big sports drink for me, you know, keep it going, keeping myself up. It gets me on top of my game, extra boost that I need to keep it going in the fourth quarter. Working out, definitely a good drink for you to have. All the good nutrition that you need inside of it. Passion fruit, it's my favorite one. It's not just for professional athletes, it's for everyone. And I definitely can say it definitely works in the office or in the weight room, wherever you may be. You can go to thinenergy.com, tell them I sent you, and get you a drink. Thin Energy, the healthy alternative. Drink it, live it. See, if I got something like that, I can just go.
No sugar, no crash.
We're back with Chopping It Up with Buck with my great friend, Maria Taylor. She just really dropped some good knowledge on us. Now, Maria, the one thing I did want to ask you, I saw that you and Holly Rowe, your BFF, y'all were going around the country and interviewing different programs and doing all. How was that? Because Holly is hella cool. She is just really cool people. I got to know her years ago when I first started at ESPN, and you know, she was just always, every time I see her somewhere, she's got that vibe like you, just, hey, I'm doing my work, but I'm also just good people. How's that been, and how has that relationship grown between the two of you?
Holly Rowe is the GOAT, one. I have looked up to her since I was in college. So to even walk around and be like, Holly's my friend and I have a key to her house is still like astounding to me a little bit.
You have to pitch yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I have to pitch myself a little bit, like Holly Rowe is my homegirl. Yeah. But it's extraordinary because what's crazy about our relationship is, and we joke about this all the time, because like we'll have coaches be like, what, how are y'all friends? And it's like, she grew up in Utah, Mormon. And I'm like, this young black girl, we're in completely different generation.
And it's like the height difference.
The height difference, like nothing was the same. We're always like, we need to have a show on Netflix about bringing people together because somehow we came together. Yeah. But we came together for the first time. You know, she was going through her chemo and cancer bout the first time around. And I was dealing with some stuff just family-wise that was difficult too. And we leaned on each other a lot, honestly. We ended up at a NACTA convention together. I was presenting her award. We sat up in a hotel room like all night long, chatted, and that's where the friendship started. And to be honest, we went on a road trip by ourselves before ESPN greenlit the Taylor road trip the second time around when we were given a producer. Yeah, we just did it. We took our phones, we had iPads, we got us an editor that lived in Miami who edited everything together. And we were like, yeah, there should be an investment in two women that love college football and let us just talk about it. And so we did it, and then there was something that they enjoyed about that, and I think that we kind of really struck a chord, and the fans loved it. It was a different look, a different insight. Players are going to talk to Holly and I different than they're going to talk to you, Buck, or you know, Herbie or Fowler or whoever else might show up. Coaches are going to speak to us differently. You know, we're getting their kids on the show. You know, it's very like family affair, and that's what we wanted it to be. So, you know, if all things could work out in a perfect world, we'd be able to have the road trip this year and, you know, every year moving forward. But it's something that we really do treasure. And our relationship, like, it means so much to me, especially in a time like this. Like, two people that can be so different can come together and be best friends and just look out for each other and constantly care for each other. That's important. And now I think we can all see the value in that. You know what I mean? And moving forward, hopefully, we'll just even be able to do more together.
Yeah. How has COVID brought you guys closer, or just really with you? What has that done for you? Because I know you're still working, but it's a little bit different in how it's affecting all of us.
Sure. I mean, I viewed it, and I think Holly feels the same way. We viewed it as a reset in some ways. So for us, we work a lot of different sports. You're constantly on the road. You might be on the road from Thursday to Sunday. Sometimes you'll be on the road from Tuesday to Sunday. I'm working NBA Countdown, and then I'm going to game day. There was one week where I did an NBA Countdown on Friday. I went to Philly and did game day that Saturday, and then was at the Heisman Trophy ceremony on Saturday night, and then with Holly at a boxing match that evening. And before that was the College Football Award. So I was coming from Atlanta going to NBA Countdown. And so you get so used to being gone and on the road and expending energy. And this has been the first time in a long time that I've had time to recharge that energy. And, there's questions. I have to question myself of why did it take a global pandemic for you to take time for yourself or take time to reset and just check in with yourself. But it is something that I'm trying to value, or just trying to understand why this moment is happening, trying to make the most of it and get the most out of it. But it has been certainly interesting. Our jobs have completely changed. It makes you question the way, so how are we going to be conducting interviews moving forward? How are we going to be having these games in Orlando? What does it all look like? But I think we're all questioning what we want our lives to look like and what is the most important thing to us. That's what COVID has done, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Before we started, we talked about seeing each other. I think the last time I saw you live was at the ACC championship game, and it was raining like crazy a couple of years ago. So I agree with you. I want to see football. I want to see basketball. But now it's how are they going to execute it? And that, I think it's also different for everybody, the players, the announcers, the staffs. Maybe no fans. What are your thoughts on that from the NBA perspective and the college football? How will it all kind of come together?
I think we're going to learn a lot from the NBA and how they move forward with the bubble. I think that they're going to have probably the most sterile situation because they can really produce that. You can do that with basketball by bringing everyone into one spot and making sure that you limit travel parties and stuff like that. I think it's going to be very difficult, honestly, with football. It's going to be a little bit harder, but you're going to see maybe half capacity stadiums where we're so used to 100,000 strong and counting in the big house and going to the shoe at Ohio State and seeing this raucous crowd. And it's not going to look the same. And, we have to be okay with that. And then, making sure that everyone is okay and that these players, we got to find a way to make sure that there aren't as many. We've seen a lot of positive tests. And so the effect that has on the players, the effect that it has on older coaches. I mean, that's even a question in the NBA. Do you allow an older coach to come into the bubble when they could be a little more susceptible to COVID? And how do you handle things like that? So there's still so many questions to be answered. And to be honest, obviously it's the first time we're all dealing with it. So we'll be learning together on the fly.
Yeah, I keep telling people it's going to be, we see how the Korean baseball organization, how they've worked. You watch UFC. Basketball is going to really play a big role in helping kind of lay it out, along with Major League Baseball, if they can ever figure it out.
On the same page.
I know, if they could ever get the players and everybody else together. Hey, excuse me, Maria, it's been great having you on. But what we always do at the very end to kind of get you out of here is a 2-minute drill. Something simple. We got to let you score. So we always start maybe on the other 80, and have a long drive. So on the 20-yard line, I have to go 80 yards. See, that's how I haven't played football so long. I'm calling it on the 80. 20-yard line going 80 yards. So first question for you. What music are you listening to? Spotify? What's your groove right now? Or
sure. So I'm Apple Music all day. I'm very into Her. So Skip Marley and Her have a song Slow Down. I would say that's the top of my playlist. And then anything that involves Her is in there. Wrong Places is the song that I'm loving right now. Focus is a good song. And it's just very thoughtful vibe music. So we're gonna go with Her.
Yeah, my dog plays it a lot, so I know it. I love it. That's good. We get to 20-yard pickup on that play. Next one. All black. Usually you say you wear all black. What is that about? What is that?
Black now.
Yeah, what is that?
So to me, my all black is my armor. I feel like if I came out in super bright pinks and neon colors, it'd be people could try me or think that I was weaker. So to me, it's the same way if you're on a motorcycle, you're going to wear black leather. You're not going to be out here on a motorcycle wearing white. It's just a thing. So to me, it's just how I attack football, especially when I'm on the sidelines for football or something like that. It just makes me feel like I'm a badass.
I love it. The badass outfit. Don't mess with Maria Taylor on the sideline. That's another 20-yard pickup. We're getting closer. Boy, I love it. Hey, so what's the coolest event that you've had to cover ever in your life? There's a lot of them, so I know you may take some people off, but I don't care. What's the coolest thing you've had to cover ever doing this gig?
Hands down, the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. And the year that Mississippi State on a last-second shot got into overtime with, we call her Morgan Williams.
Yeah.
She shot over like a 6'2" extended arm, and Mississippi State goes on to make it to the national championship game. And then Enrique Agumbawale hits back-to-back game winners and ends up on Dancing with the Stars. And, I got to roll with my women's basketball players because that's how I feel like I made it even into the industry. But I've never had more fun over the course of, say, 4 days and watched more incredible games and just competitive nature. Like, I loved every second of all of that.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, that's really cool because I think when you see that, I can remember when you start talking about that, I can remember that vividly.
Mm-hmm.
I was glued to the TV. I couldn't stop watching it. We're down in the red zone, scoring zone. You're almost there.
Mm-hmm.
Best place to eat in Georgia?
Ooh, good question. I love Mary Mac's Tea Room because I'm super big on sweets and I like Southern food. But when they come to the table, you get like cornbread and these cinnamon rolls. Like that's the first thing that you eat when you get there. And so everything else, obviously, is going to be great. So Mary Mac's Tea Room.
Oh, okay. Got to do it. That Emmy behind you, what'd you win that for?
College Game Day.
You
already know. It's funny because I'm pretty sure we've won more than that, but only one has showed up. So I think that I only have earned a piece of one.
Well, hey, where are Maria Taylor's Emmys?
I only have one, and I'm pretty sure they won one every year that I've been on the show. So I'm just thankful that one showed up here. We're just gonna go with that.
You scored on that touchdown. We're in the end zone. Maria scores. Well, hey, Maria.
Yes.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. This is cool. I mean, I am so glad and thankful that you could come on this edition of Chopping It Up with Buck. We had such a good time. This is why I started. I'm sitting out on the back porch, just looking at the trees, saying, "Hey, what can I do during this time period?" And just finding friends like you to come on and just tell their story and tell their purpose and their why. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me, Buck, and I love what you're doing. Keep it up. We need this right now during this time period. Conversations just like this with friends.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Mike Gardner, founder of Thin Energy, the wellness energy that delivers each and every time.
In 6 weeks that I've been taking Thin Energy, I feel fantastic.
I lost 7 pounds in the first week.
You just squeeze it in, you take a shot, and you're done.
Get your drinks, get you hype, get you ready.
I feel great.
Jump on, try Thin Energy.
Drink it, live it.
Many people are looking for natural alternatives to help ease their aches and pains. Begin stopping the pain with the help of Pain Stopper. Formulated by healthcare providers, Pain Stopper helps alleviate a variety of physical ailments so you can get back to doing what you love.
Our products are triple independently lab tested to ensure the highest quality hemp available.
Visit PainStopCBD.com for more information. Pain Stopper, because why manage pain when you can stop it?
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.